Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast, High School Edition. I'm KJ Pilcher of the Gazette alongside Dick Briggs, ready to talk a little high school wrestling here in our final prep podcast of 2025 before we head into the second half of the season in January of 2026. Briggsy, kind of a big way to finish off the first half of the season, but the holidays are upon us.
Right. And we're kind of seeing who the stronger teams are around the area here and around the state as well. And with the results of the Battle of Waterloo and the results from last weekend, doggone it, Minnesota might have a tougher team than Iowa. With Southeast Polk winning the Battle of Waterloo, but losing to the Minnesota team last week. So
right.
I've been sitting on that one all week. That hurts.
Hey, I want to ask you about this because I remember kind of going into the holiday break, and some of it was kind of fun because Randy Ray would take us to maybe some different places to practice with other teams. I remember going to practice with Lisbon a couple times. Once was actually at Cornell, where we practiced with Lisbon at Cornell's facilities. We had a couple teams that would come in, or a few wrestlers that would come in and work out during the break. College kids would come back and you'd get to wrestle. I remember Earl Harrison and Jamie Byrne coming back a couple times in the Washington room. For you as a coach, since you've been through this, you went through it for over 30 some years. What was this time for you? So what are these coaches looking at? What are they trying to do here during this couple weeks where you don't have competition?
Well, you're blocked out. There are some dates in the Cedar Rapids School District that we could not be at the building, and so you're blocked out. So I tried to work the schedule around, like at the last competition of the before the break, if there was any room for a practice, it would be a very fun light practice. Like we would do, I would introduce them to freestyle, just go show the scoring and let them try a little bit, show a move or two, and then have some freestyle matches and scoring. And so that was fun there. We'd also have, at the end of that very short light practice, we would have a pizza party down in the cafeteria. So I'd have the pizzas down there ready to go, and I'd always let the seniors go first. and then it was a scramble after that. and then you're right. We had teams come in, or we went different places, and through the years I had Tristan Wirfs up there, Mount Vernon was there, and then we had I just had it. I lost it. The twins from Riverside.
West.
The West. Yeah.
Bryson Drew.
Which was nice because at the time I had Brendan Baker and Kyle, and so it's perfect for those two to have, the West come in and work out with them. So, just those types of things. I will say this, unfortunately, when Tristan Wirfs was up there, I didn't have a heavyweight. This is one of the few years I just didn't have a heavyweight.
Oh, so, no.
And he was like a sophomore, I think. And he was already just, it was fun to watch him even then. What an athlete. But we had, Brad Smith would bring some teams over and through the years from Lisbon. So it was very fun. It was just, kind of, and whenever there's another team coming in, there's the pride. It's your room. You got to defend it, right? That sort of
right.
And even if it's not your room, if you're stepping into someone else's room, you want to be the guy. So, and it's not like everyone's picking. The kids got along fine, and there's anything like that. But it's just on that spoken level of intensity that you bring, when you're training. You don't want to be the guy that looks tired or that sort of thing.
I remember my freshman year, we went up to Cornell and practiced with Lisbon. I remember getting absolutely throttled by Robbie Kamerling, who was a state runner-up for Lisbon, I believe that year or the next. But I just remember being a freshman, getting absolutely throttled and then even Brad Smith kind of doing like a little hip toss and putting me ass end over appetite at one time. He doesn't remember that, but I certainly do. And I just remember Randy Ray on the drive home, kind of giving me a hard time about how much mat I ended up eating during that. They're like, we were worried you're going to suffocate the way he had you face down so many times. But
yeah. So Lisbon connection here. Noah Padilla, who is assistant coach at Jefferson right now, who's from California. So I was talking to him the other day, and I go, and I had no idea he was Kyle's teammate up at Warburg. So I had no idea that this was a connection. His high school coach was C.T. Campbell.
Oh yeah,
out
sure.
in California. What a connection!
I did not realize CT had coached out in California.
Yeah,
I know CT was in Texas and maybe even Alabama. Remember CT Campbell brought a team to the Clyde Bean duels at one time.
Yeah, CT's quite a character, man. There's an intense guy that I don't think he ever ended up being a state champ. Wasn't he like a runner-up? And I'm like,
I don't think he was a state champ.
He was good for sure. Yeah, good guy too.
Well, let's talk. Obviously, the Battle of Waterloo was the big event this last weekend. No real surprise. You had the 4 number 1 seeds in bracket competition wrestle in the championship pool. They went 4-0, or not 4-0, but those 4 number 1 seeds swept it. Southeast Polk ended up going 3-0 in the championship pool to win it all. I believe was Indianola second, Don Bosco third, Clarion Goldfield Downs fourth. But I know Don Bosco might have been down a little bit. They're missing some guys. But Southeast Polk looked really dominant.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they beat Indianola 40-26 in that meet. It wasn't necessarily the last meet because they do a pool, but and then Indianola beat Don Bosco 42-24. So there's a pretty good separation between those 3 teams. And Clarion Goldfield Downs was 4th in that championship pool, and that Don Bosco beat them 37-36. So that was a burner of a meet there. So
anything surprise you about those?
Not really. Indianola has been a sleeper team to me always. I have relatives that my sister-in-law and her family grew up there and lived there, and so I always keep an eye on them. But I don't know that any other people do that. So they're a great homegrown team that just really seems to always excel, and especially in wrestling. So
yeah, they had a strong showing at West Delaware to start the season. Clint Manny's done a great job there. Obviously, taking over for Young. They're a solid team. I think they're ranked number 3 right now in 3A, behind Southeast Polk and Dowling. So that's a team that you're going to have to keep an eye out for sure the rest of the season. The rest of it, I think it kind of went maybe true to form for the most part.
Yeah.
I know not all the number 2 seeds advanced. Linmar knocked off Assumption. I think it who beat Alburnett in the
Pleasant Valley?
Was it Pleasant Valley?
I think it was, yeah.
They knocked off Bettendorf. It was
Oh, it
Bettendorf.
was Bettendorf. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Same county.
Pleasant Valley was the number 2 seed in their duel. And I think that was one that you said. I think maybe last week you kind of mentioned the possibilities of Bettendorf moving on to the finals against Southeast Polk in that D bracket.
And even if I didn't, I did.
But that second place duel or the second place bracket, kind of interesting there, where Bettendorf ran the table. They went 3-0. They beat Linmar 43-27, PV 34-29, and then Independence 41-29. But then you had kind of a round robin effect where Pleasant Valley, Independence, Linmar all beat each other. PV got second, Indy third, Linmar fourth. But just kind of shows how tight the competition is there among that next level of teams.
Right. And then that Pleasant Valley who finished second, and Linmar, who finished fourth, they actually tied in the duel 36-36. So that went down to criteria.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah. So that's a toss up, when that happens. Everyone wants to win, but of course, when you do that round robin, then you can all each kind of claim second place.
Yeah, that's right. And then I just mentioned the third place pool. Those were the teams that got third in their brackets on Friday. Ankeny came away with a win there. West Delaware was second, Alburnett third, North Scott fourth. Ankeny went 3-0, beat North Scott 42-35, Alburnett 36-30, and then West Delaware 39-23. West Delaware topped Alburnett 36-25. North Scott 42-25, and then Alburnett beat North Scott 53-26. But good showing by Ankeny. That kind of surprised me a little bit. And then West Delaware. I think West Delaware is a team might be best suited for duels where kind of the sum of the parts are greater than the individuals.
Right. And that's kind of how West Delaware has been that way, but they've also had those individuals as well. But that's not uncommon for West Delaware. They just have strength in numbers and up and down the line. There's never really a weak spot. They put out a quality wrestler at each weight. So I would mention this because I'm going to mention it again later that the setup is this way. They have an 8-team bracket on Friday. So each team wrestles 3 times. So the wrestler gets 3 matches there. And then the next day they get put into a pool of 4 teams where they do a three meet, round robin, wrestling the other 3 teams. So they get 3 matches on Saturday. So in this tournament, each wrestler, if they wrestle in all of the competitions, gets 6 total matches. So remember that for later on.
Yeah. I know there were some really good individual matches throughout you had ranked guys kind of clashing throughout the entire tournament.
Right.
I think one of the interesting ones, Eddie of Southeast Polk versus Schwab of Don Bosco, that kind of stood out where Woody won pretty handily. One match that I thought was pretty interesting. Lincoln Jip of Bettendorf moved up to heavyweight. Egan Fleshman, just a sophomore for Alburnett, battled him to a 3-1 decision. Fleshman has a win over Feuerbach from Solon already this season at heavyweight. Battled right there with Jip, who's going to North Carolina. Outstanding opponent. I think that shows a lot about just where Egan Fleshman is as a young guy moving up to heavyweight. I don't know, that just kind of impressed me a little bit. That was a match that he was in to the end.
And just to follow up in that match you're talking about with Woody and Schwab, that's what number 1 versus number 1 ranked wrestlers. And then back to the Jip match. I get watch the little bit that I've seen Jip wrestle. He looks like a real physical kind of bully type wrestler, and so bumping up to heavyweight, that's so when that kind of wrestler comes up, you're a little ticked off. What are you doing up at my weight class? So I'm glad to see that he did. I didn't realize he was a sophomore, so that's nice.
Yeah,
nice to know that.
Yep. And yeah, any other ones kind of stand out to you at all?
In pool 4, Prairie finished second and City High finished fourth in that pool. And then their duel, Prairie won that 58-10. That was a real, for me, I don't know much about City High this year, but that's a whooping. Now, I don't know if they had their full lineup or anything like that, but that one stood out to me, I guess, a little bit.
I know City High's missing Rafael Atuma, their state place winner from last year. He's banged up, but they expect him to come back at 215 after the break, and then King Willie will move up to heavyweight. So right there, that's just one small little thing we haven't touched on yet so far this season. Atuma missing from the lineup, but we'll see him after the break there.
Okay.
No, this was, for the most part, this was a tournament that kind of went true to form.
Yeah.
I know we mentioned there are a couple 3s over 2s, but those can always go either way.
Yeah.
But I think this kind of went. Kudos to the people seeding teams. Maybe, I don't know.
Yep. That's not easy to do either. It's not easy to seed those, especially this early in the season. And they, for the most part, they did a pretty decent job. Some people might complain and say, as the 8th seed, I get put into this such and such bracket with the number 1 seed, whatever, And if we were the 6th seed, we might have had a chance to upset that, those sorts of things. But for the most part, you're right. They did a real nice job seeding it. And did you notice? Here's a little cool thing. They had a celebrity at the Battle of Waterloo.
Yes, they did.
All right. I don't know his name. Can you tell me his name off the
Frank Jasper, I believe, is his name.
Okay, Frank Jasper. Listeners, viewers, if you can come up with that name, you're definitely a wrestling historian.
Yeah, Brian Shute from Vision Quest. If you get a chance, our friend, our colleague Jim Nelson, talked with him a little bit at the Battle of Waterloo ceremonies and stuff the night before everything started last Wednesday. The Courier has some content with that, which is definitely worth a visit. So check that out as well. But yeah, that's obviously that that movie is a big deal for wrestling fans, and he was a pretty notable part of that movie, right?
Yes.
The guy that Matthew Modine was trying to hunt down. What are you, crazy?
You're going to make the weight?
Yep.
I hope so. I think he had 2 lines. Going to make the weight, and I hope so too. But he left a mark in my mind.
Yep, for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about the girls' tournament there at the Battle of Waterloo. 24 teams, 3 brackets. That was held on Thursday. Cedar Falls, Osage, and Linmar end up winning their brackets. Cedar Falls They beat Xavier Bettendorf and then finish it off with a 57-24 win over Decorah to make the championship pool. Decorah got second over Vinton Schellsburg, beating them in the semis 48-36. And then Vinton Schellsburg beat Bettendorf for third place there in bracket A. In bracket B, Prairie was the top seed, but Osage knocks them off 45-30 in the finals after beating Crestwood and West Delaware to get there. Prairie with wins over Lake Mills and BCLUW. And Osage advances to the championship pool. And then in Pool C, it was the 2 seed again, Linmar, beating Des Moines Public Schools, then Waverly Shell Rock 59-24 before beating top-seeded Mason City 57-24, who would beat Independence in the semis and opened with a win against Charles City. Then in the championship pool, Cedar Falls beat Osage 57-19, beat Linmar 51-24, then Linmar beat Osage to finish in runner-up there. So Cedar Falls, Linmar, Osage, first through third on the girls' side.
Right, and then in the second pool, Prairie won that. Mason City was second, and Decorah was third in that. Third pool was Waverly, Shell Rock, Vinton, Schellsburg, and Crestwood. So just to kind of round those out.
Yep. I mean, we have such great. We have some very, very good teams. In Eastern Iowa. You mentioned all those, especially in the MVC with the likes of Cedar Falls and Linmar, Prairie being, three of those top four teams to finish at the girls' tournament. And what a good start of the season for or this first half of the season for Linmar. They had a real busy weekend, but they were a win away from coming away with a team title.
Right, and so those the Battle of Waterloo for the girls was held on Thursday. They had 5 duels there, and then they went home. And in the case of some schools, they might not have went home. They might have got a hotel room. Who knows? But Prairie held their big girls tournament, the Bubba Randalls tournament with 28 teams, and so Linmar won that. Prairie was second, South Tama third, Williamsburg fourth, Kennedy was fifth, and this is a 28 team tournament.
Wow.
and Western Dubuque was tied for sixth, and Jefferson was eighth. But anyway, so they wrestled. I guess that's held just on Saturday, so it was Thursday to Saturday. I don't think it's a Friday Saturday tournament.
No,
but big tournament there. I should know, I've reffed it before, but anyway.
It's a long day.
Yeah, well, and when you have 50 plus competitions that you're reffing throughout the year, they kind of blend in after a while.
True.
So Linmar, by the way, they were first, and their champions were Kate Siri at 115, Chloe Adamson at 120, Divine Akili at 190. Prairie had champs they had 3 champs as well. Marie Burns at 105, Brenna Ruff at 125, and Amelia Reyes at 235. South Tama had 2 champs, Livin Smith at 110 or 100, Autumn Ellsbury at 170. Kennedy had a champ, Meredith Comp. We got to see her wrestle the other day, and she championed. Her records after the tournament was 18-6. So she didn't come in with a huge glossy record, but still won with 4 falls. So good for her. Marion had a champ at 130, Josie Logan, and Benton Community had a champ, Elena DeMoss, at 145. So a lot of area champs in that very difficult tournament.
Yeah, DeMoss down to 145, had wrestled 55 and 70 in previous seasons. Lizzie Wolf from Benton Community, her teammate, up to 155. So they've kind of switched a little bit and coming away with a win. The one set you mentioned, Autumn Ellsbury, and she had kind of a tough loss to Anastasia Simon at the Donnybrook, I believe, but she's really, and I think she suffered a second loss at the Donnybrook, but she's a state champ for South Tama and battled back, and that was a loaded bracket there at 170. You had Addison Bowman getting third, Aurora Lloyd of Linmar fourth, Ava Fobb of Western Dubuque, the runner-up. But Macy Peterson finished fifth from Burlington. She finished sixth at state last year. So here, that tells you a little bit about how deep the bracket is when they're only finishing one spot higher than they did at state the year before. So definitely a really strong field there at Prairie.
Right. With Ellsbury, just a quick side note. I was reffing the South Tama youth tournament. That's the day after the boys state tournament. So they always bring in their state qualifier boys and their state medalist boys, and then they're same with the girls, and introduce them to the kids in a short little break there. And so they introduced Autumn last year, and I got to meet her and work with her. She was working a table. A real nice young lady.
Also want to mention a couple runners up. I think you mentioned Bria Park from Linmar, but Kennedy had you mentioned comp, but they had a runner up in Jocelyn Stricker at 190, and then Serenity Dawkins of Cedar Rapids, Washington, might be the highest finish in a tournament that Washington has had in the short time they've had a girls program. So that seemed a little noteworthy.
Absolutely.
To me, Olivia Hollam as well for Kennedy, finishing second at 120, as well as Mary Angelis at 110. So good showings there overall. So yeah. Now, you mentioned that you officiated this tournament in the past, and you talked a little bit about kind of how you've done quite a few. That kind of leads into the topic that you have for Teeing It Up with Briggs this week, our final one of 2025.
Right. So this is almost more of a public service announcement, but so it starts out with this. In September, I had hip replacement surgery. So that meant I wasn't going to be able to officiate. I blocked off all of my dates until after January 1st. But last week on Thursday, the weather was bad and a lot of teams got canceled, or meets got canceled. So one of the officials that was working the Xavier meet on Thursday, that meet got bumped to Friday. And so he was already working the Marion JV on Friday. So now he's booked for two. And he calls and says, Briggsy says, can you help me out? And I said, yeah, I'm ready to go. I can do that. So I went over and did on Friday the Marion JV meet. Well, my reason for bringing that up is he contacts Adam, and Adam's the guy that assigns all of the competition or the referee and dates and such. And so on Friday night, when I'm done officiating, I look at my phone, and Adam has already sent me a request to they call them SOSs because they're so late, a request on Monday, which I did I refed at Vinton Schellsburg and junior varsity tournament. And then Tuesday I did a varsity dual triangular down at Riverside. And then I did again on Saturday. I got a call on Saturday morning to work Saturday morning. It's like 5 minutes before the meet started up at North Lynn. And so my point for bringing this up is what I'm teeing it up with. I'm happy to do that, but that just shows you how desperate and how much we are in need of officials, and particularly young officials. So I'm almost begging, but I implore anyone that's vaguely interested to at least contact me. I can steer you the right direction and get you started on that. And I would say this also to parents, to coaches, to fans up in the stands: be kind.
Yeah.
Referees aren't perfect. They're going to make a mistake here. They're not trying to. They have the best interests of the wrestlers in mind, and they want to get it right. And a lot of them work their fannies off to do that. But if something doesn't go your way, or maybe even it could have gone either way, and you get chirping, I beg you, take it easy on them, because pretty soon you will not have officials. The officiating crew right now is getting old, and it's who knows how many more years I'm going to do it. I don't know. Maybe this is it, for all I know. But so let's help cultivate new officials to the program, and that goes beyond wrestling. I'm sure that's the case in a lot of different sports. So there's my tee it up with Briggs today.
Well, and I'll just follow up by saying, if you're watching this and you go, oh, they'll never get to that point where they'll have to cancel meets. We've seen it in football already. We've seen where they've canceled games because they don't have officials, enough officials to go around. We've seen to where they've had to extend week to where you have 8-player game, some more 8-player games on Thursday nights, because they don't have enough officials to spread out over those games on Friday. So they can do Thursday, Friday games because they just don't have enough to have everything on Friday night. So you bring up a great point to be a little understanding to the people out there, because I know very few people that have ever taken a mat, taken a field, taken the court wanting to do a bad job or not do the best job possible. You may not like somebody, you may not like the way they call something, or officials can be wrong. They know that, but they're out there doing the best they can. And without them, you don't have competition.
Right.
It's just a fact.
And you also understand that there's so many different angles. So the angle that you're at might be able to see, I'll just say, a lock hands. You see a lock hands call, whereas the official might be behind, and not be able to see that right away, or just pick a situation or whatever. And so they're seeing something different than you are, and they have to, and a lot of times your eyes are scanning. You're looking at the edge of the mat. You're looking at the hands, where the position's there. You're looking at the feet, where they are there. And so you're just scanning all sorts of things, and so it makes it difficult there. I do know that I've heard that some of these first year officials are being required, or not required, but they're being requested to work varsity duels, which is not really very fair for them. They're trying to get themselves to improve themselves. They're just learning, and now they're thrown into a varsity duel situation. That's not good. So again, if anyone wants to become an official, I help you for sure.
Well, hopefully, and I know we can use volunteers for a lot of different things, but boy, being able to improve those numbers for officials. I mean, I think the Regina tournament I was at on Saturday had 2 mats and 3 officials the entire day.
Oh.
So it was just a constant, nobody was off the floor, so to speak. And then when we got to the finals, it was 2 officials on the championship mat, one on the third place mat, and for an hour and a half, it was constantly, they were doing something, no breaks, and that's tough.
Yeah, and honestly, 3-on-2 is ideal. Many times it's less than that. It's like last Saturday when they called me, it was 7 officials on 6 mats.
Oh, geez.
So they called me, and I hustled up there and helped them through the junior varsity portion of it, and then they were fine. Then they had 6 officials on 4 mats. So you want 3-on-2 is doable, and that's probably as good as it's going to get for you.
And that's still kind of
even then.
Yeah.
But I think I asked Shea Stamp, and he said the tournament started at 8:30, and then they finished at 4:00. I think he said. So that's a long day. But you can make some good spending money. It's not, you're not going to become rich or anything, but you get paid, obviously, and so you can make some money to buy some Christmas gifts, right?
Yeah, right. For sure.
One last thing, the
Mhm.
state does have a mentoring program. So if you're a beginning official, they'll have someone come and help mentor you and talk you through and mechanics and calls and positioning and that sort of thing.
Cool. Well, I mentioned the officiating down at Regina. I was down there to actually cover the duel. It was it was a really fun competition, really fun team race. There, you had Woodbury Central, who was came all the way over from Northwest Iowa to compete. I know they've done that in the past, and they were at Regina. You had Lisbon there as well. That went down pretty much to the last couple weight classes, and Lisbon came away with a team title, 196 to 195 over Woodbury Central. I tell you what, that was fun to watch play out. So many things kind of went down. The 175-pound match ended up being kind of what sealed it for Lisbon. Caleb Brown, Lisbon's 175-pounder, got a pin over Maverick Joy of Woodbury Central. That if he doesn't get a pin, if he doesn't get any bonus points, Woodbury Central ends up winning that. If they reverse it, Woodbury Central wins. So Caleb Brown coming through and talked to Aaron Helmrich a little bit about that. And he reminded me last year during the Lisbon duels, it was Caleb Brown with a big pin that helped Lisbon knock off Mount Vernon, rivalry duel there in January. So he's done that before and came through again. I'm pretty sure he won the Mount Vernon tournament the week before. So Caleb Brown wrestling really well here. 2 titles the last 2 weeks for Lisbon. Cade Happel, Kyler Happel, and Carter Gadberry also winning titles for Lisbon. The interesting thing for Cade Happel, he got a pin in 48 seconds over Tacoma Thompson of MFL in the finals. That was his 100th career win. So another, stop me if you've heard this, you've got a Happel from Lisbon with 100 career wins.
I've heard that name before, yeah.
A lot of wins there for that family, obviously, and he looked dominant in his performance there for the Lions, and of course we mentioned Kyler Happel as well, winning the round robin at 106 for them. If you get a chance, the Gazette.com, the tournament story leads off with Cooper Gates of West Branch. I believe he's up to 5th in the Class 2A rankings. He was somebody that he's really made some strides. He's 16-1, hasn't lost to an Iowa opponent yet this season. He's off to a great start. He's somebody that's been fueled by the finishes of the past, and it's really motivated him to be his best here his senior year. Save the best for last a little bit. He was 8th as a freshman. Admitted he came in as a sophomore and was maybe a little too cocky and ended up not placing. Then he was 7th last year, even though he wrestled like Andrew Knacht, a 1-score match. in the quarterfinals, ended up 7th, but even though he was better, it just did not set well with him because he knew he was better than that and knew he was a top 3 kind of guy. Now he's got his focus set on being a Saturday night guy, right? Being in the finals, going for a title. He had a 10-2 major decision in the finals to win a 165-pound match. So make sure to go to Gazette.com to see that, the story on Cooper Gates and the rest of the tournament. A couple other finals results that really kind of stand out. One, Gates' teammate, Ethan Humphrey. He had a major decision over Lisbon's Cale Stricker in a battle of ranked wrestlers. And then Owen Mankey, the heavyweight for Sigourney Kyoto. He stayed unbeaten. He beat, I believe, Howes is ranked as high as 2 in Class 1A, but Mankey with a 7-1 decision over Will Howes of MFL. So a quality win there for the Sigourney Kyoto heavyweight, and him staying undefeated so far this season. So big win for him as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just noticed that I hadn't noticed this before. I was looking at the Central DeWitt results, which had a 15-team tournament there, and West Liberty won that. They had 3 champions, and one of their champions at 113's name is Caleb Brown. How about that, huh? We just talked about Caleb Brown from Lisbon. Now, Caleb
Brown for doing double duty at 2 different
right. And he's incognito because this Caleb is spelled with a K instead of a C.
Oh, okay. Yep. There's the difference.
That's right.
That's how you get away with it, right? You just have to change the spelling of the name. So
change the first letter, right? So I'll follow up with this. West Liberty had, they were first with 192. Wilton was second, 188. Davenport North was third. Jefferson was fourth. They were a 1.5 out of third. So West Liberty had 3 champs: Brown, like we mentioned, Isaac Aragon at 126, and Landon Wainwright at 175. Wilton had 4 champs. You'll recognize this name: Mason Shirk at 132.
Yep. Sure.
Liam Adelfinger, didn't he have a huge upset at state a couple years ago at 138? And then Gabe beat Schwab, I think, in the finals, didn't he?
Yep.
And then Gabe Brisker, 150, and then Gatlin Rogers. I like that. Gatlin, neat first name. Champion at 215. Jefferson had a champion, Zaid Igram, at 120. He's a nephew of my state champion, Ali Igram.
Oh, yeah.
CPU also had a champion in Jackson McGonigal at 106. So that's the Central DeWitt tournament.
I'll just want to add one quick thing about the Regina tournament and what's coming up here at the Gazette.com, our weekly notes and feature. Regina has a new head coach this year, and I think you'll recognize the last name, Nelson. It's Nelson Brands, the former Iowa City West 3-time state champ. Still, I believe, the only 4-time outstanding wrestler at the Mississippi Valley Conference Super Meet. Won it all 4 years in high school. Not even Jay Borschel or any of those guys, Joey Slayton, Nate Moore, none of them were OWs for all 4 years, but Nelson Brands was, and of course he was an All-American in Iowa. The son of Terry Brands, the nephew of Tom Brands, wrestled for Mark Ryland. He's the new head coach at Regina, and I tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some big things there. He's got a nice staff with Kyle Biscaglia, former UNI wrestler. Tanner Schultz, who's from Marion. Stephen Dahl, who is his training partner at Iowa. I tell you what, if you watch him, you really see the joy and the fun that he's having as a coach. So I talked to him a little bit about his coaching endeavor. Check that out at thegazette.com tonight and tomorrow. You mentioned North Lynn, kind of getting the call to help out there. Of course, North Lynn had their home tournament, the Lynx Invitational, and they came away with a team title, winning their home tournament. I tell you what, there's been a little bit of a resurrection with the Northland program this season. They're wrestling really well. They've really climbed the rankings. They scored 189.5 points in the team race, 31 more than Columbus Community. They had 5 finalists and had titles from 157-pounder Tate Woods and 190-pounder Jacoby Payton. Linmar, their JV was there, and they actually had a champ at 120. Jaden Gallagher came away with a win. Cascade had 2 champs, and Tatum Honda and Bryce Carroll at 126 and 144. Dyersville Beckman. Speaking of Cascade, Dyersville, that's always a rivalry, usually in baseball for sure. But Beckman also had 2 champs. Preston Hunter continues his really strong start at 150. Cody Hageman won at 175. And then Tipton's Max Lashmit at 165. And Mid Prairie's Tommy Miller at 215 also won titles there at Northland.
I'll add a special note to Cedar Rapids, Washington had a runner-up at heavyweight, Willie Davis. So always good to see the Warriors adding to that as well.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a nice little tournament up there at Northland. And kudos to the Lynx for what they've done so far this season. Really good first half for them. The Don Miller Invitational was hosted by Fort Dodge this week as well. I know we've talked about Western Dubuque a couple times, and we're like, hey, that's a team need to keep an eye on. Decorah, I had big expectations out of Decorah coming into this season, but boy, they just keep getting stronger and stronger. They won the team title there at Fort Dodge. They had 217.5 points, 41 ahead of runner-up Iowa City West. They had champions in Will Larson at 138, Gavin Carolyn at 144, Gavin Knutson at 157, and William Fullhart at 165. I tell you what, Decorah is going to make some noise in Class 2A.
Yeah, I think so. And that was good of you to make that call early on in the season, because it brought attention to me, and I agree. They're going to be we'll see how that works out. It's tournament time.
Yeah, they had 7 in the finals overall. So that was a pretty decent field when you think Fort Dodge, Iowa City West being a part of that up there. Speaking of Iowa City West, they had 3 champions in Diego Roberti at 113, Alexander Pierce at 126, and Campbell Janis at 175. Pierce, a 3-time state finalist, state champ as a freshman. He's 14-0 this season, kind of bouncing between 120 and 126. He had 2 technical falls and a pin on his way to a title there. I tell you what, Iowa City West, they're a team. They've got some real veteran wrestlers. You got Pierce, accomplished Matthew Tron, Campbell Janis, I think Charlie Barnhouse. Their heavyweight Stitt got second to Drashawn Ross, who wouldn't. Then you've got these younger guys coming in, Diego Roberti, Blessed Woods, Owen Cothy. I think those 2 also got second, as well as Stitt. They're kind of merging, and I know talking to Nate Moore at the beginning of the season, it was like, we've got some young guys with potential, but we'll see how it works out. I think he's got to be pretty happy with how things have come together here the first half of the season.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm going to follow up on your Decorah comment.
Oh, sure.
Say that in 2A, that's pretty loaded, man. That's going to be a heck of a race, because with Hupkey Productions has EBF number 1, Clarion Goldfield Downs number 2, Albernet 3, Assumption 4, Wilton 5, West Burlington Notre Dame 6, Osage 7th, Decorah 8th. And I'm like, I don't know how Decorah, who they're going to climb over there. Maybe 1 or 2 or more. But those are some solid teams. And then, of course, Denver is at 9 and Independence at 10. I mean, 2A is just, I don't know, KJ, it's going to be fun to watch it.
It's loaded for sure.
I'm sorry, I kind of got diverted from your question, but that was just, it's like screaming at me right there. And I got, man, so Decorah can do it for sure, but it's not an easy climb.
No. And you see that shuffle of teams between 1A and 2A and everything, and it's really made competitive and a tough Class 2A this season, hasn't it?
Right. Yes. And you saw EBF last week. EBF, by the way, won the Fort Madison 2-day tournament that had 24 teams, and they won it handily by over 100 points. 468.5 to second was Hempstead at 357. CCA was third. Burlington Notre Dame was fourth. Kennedy was fifth, and Solon was sixth. Now, remember when I brought up that they wrestled 6 matches at the Battle of Waterloo in 2 days? So in this tournament, they wrestle 5 matches on Friday night, a full bracket, if the bracket's full, sorry, and then they wrestle 4 matches on Saturday. So they get 9 matches in. Honestly, I think that's too much.
Too many.
Yeah. So that's why I brought that up. 9 matches at Fort Madison. That can beat your team up.
Oh, for sure. You need a break now.
Right. But back to my original point with EBF is the number 1 ranked 2A team according to Hupkey Wrestling Productions, and then we had Clarion Goldfield Dalles was in there, and so each of those were tournament winners. Clarion Goldfield Dalles was in that championship bracket at the Battle of Waterloo. What were they? No. Let's see. Where were they this week?
Yeah, they're in the championship. They got fourth. Yeah.
So I mean, there's some great teams in 2A. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, for sure. And of course, you mentioned the Fort Madison tournament. Just want to mention that Solon had 2 champs, and Anderson Osgood at 106 and Lucas Feuerbach at heavyweight. Benton Community had a champ in Elias Bishke at 157. And again, Kennedy's, we've seen this before. They're 2 heavyweights. Anthony Keys and Jaheim Wright finished second and third in this tournament. I believe they did the same thing at the Keith Young the first weekend of the season. So,
right. The difference on this was that they wrestled each other.
Oh, really?
Keys did beat Wright in the earlier round, but then Wright wrestled back to third. And one note about Feuerbach, he won with 6 falls and a technical fall. He had 2 buys evidently, so he had 7 matches. 6 of them were fall and 1 was technical fall. That guy's on a roll. He's tough.
Definitely returning state finalist from a year ago. So he's really focused to take that next step.
Yep.
All right. Any final thoughts here as we close things up? Before the start of the new year.
A lot to cover last weekend, and I think we got a couple mentioned here anyway, most of it. So good job.
Yep. So any big plans for the holidays or any upcoming New Year's resolutions that you have in store?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. Nothing big right away. Family will be here. Kyle is back from North Carolina, so he's back. Matter of fact, during this podcast, he was putting on he had a one-on-one with a wrestler, and actually in the same room was Ali Agron with Zaid, I believe. So
wow.
Kind of a session that he likes to do that, come back and kind of do a one-on-one or whatever with with people. So it keeps him
Awesome.
connected somewhat to the sport.
Awesome. Well, hey, I just want to thank everybody. I mentioned this in our college edition as well. We'd like to thank you so much for the support and for watching us. It really makes our day when we run into people while covering a duel or working a tournament. When you say how much you watch it and you enjoy the Pinning Combination podcast. Thank you for the support over this 2025. We plan to continue working hard to bring wrestling to you and widen the spotlight on a great sport and the athletes that compete in it for 2026. So thank you very much for following us. We wish you a happy holiday and happy new year as well. Mm-hmm. And as always, I'm going to turn it over to Dick Briggs to send us out. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you in 2026.
Let's keep wrestling on the move.